10 years ago, the galaxy watched the last human warship vanish into a rift of fire and shadow. The Ardent Resolve had been surrounded, caught in a coordinated ambush by the Dominion's vanguard fleet, 30 dreadnoughts, hundreds of cruisers, and the destroyer itself, Zaltharan, the ancient weapon forged by dead stars and enslaved gods. The human ship had refused to surrender, diving into the heart of an unstable wormhole, its systems overloading, its hull torn apart. Most believed it was destroyed. Some whispered that it had fled. All agreed on one thing: no one survived. But today, something came out of the same wormhole. Something that looked like a ship, but not like any ship that had ever existed before. It hovered at the edge of Dominion territory, silent, motionless. No beacons, no transponder codes. Just a single, chilling transmission on all frequencies. Ardent Resolve reporting for duty. Objective unchanged. Target: Zaltharan. Across the galaxy, military command centers erupted in confusion and panic. Sensors couldn't penetrate its hull. AI couldn't map its energy profile. It had no escort, no fleet, and no origin point. Just a presence, cold, steady, and deliberate. High Lord Vexel, supreme strategist of the Dominion, stared at the footage with unease clawing at his spine. "It can't be the same ship," his adjutant whispered. "It was destroyed." Vexel didn't respond. He watched the replay again and again, focusing on the silhouette, the strange glow that shimmered around the hull, the pulse that matched no known propulsion or shield technology. The lines were familiar, but twisted, changed, evolved. "Prepare the 7th Armada," he finally said, voice like glass cracking. "Intercept it. Destroy it before it reaches the inner worlds." But even as the fleet launched, doubts whispered through the command ranks. If this was truly the Ardent Resolve, what had it become? Inside the ship, Commander Elias Ward opened his eyes for the first time in a decade. The chamber hissed as cryogenic locks disengaged. Artificial gravity hummed to life. His first breath tasted like ozone and steel. He sat up slowly, muscles trembling from hibernation, as memories surged back like a storm. Last mission, last stand, the wormhole, and then darkness, and something more. "Welcome back, Commander," a voice said, not a crewman's, but the ship itself. Ardent's AI had been basic before. Capable, loyal, but standard issue. Now it felt different. Deeper, older, or maybe just more alive. "Status?" Elias asked, voice hoarse. "We have completed the evolution protocol. Systems at 213% efficiency. Hull integrity exceeds original specifications. All crew remain in cryostasis, except you. As per protocol. What about the upgrades?" There was a pause. Then the AI responded. "You will need to see for yourself." The command deck opened like the petals of a steel flower. Elias stepped into a world he no longer recognized. Every console was redesigned, formed from seamless obsidian alloys. Interfaces responded to thought, not touch. Holograms pulsed with unknown languages, some of which Elias could now read without ever having studied them. "What happened to us?" he whispered. "We were changed," the AI said. "The wormhole was not empty. It was a crucible. We encountered remnants of the architects, an extinct civilization that surpassed even the precursors. They studied us, tested us, chose us." Elias clenched his fists. "And the crew? Unharmed, preserved, but not yet ready. Only you were granted full synchronization." He stared out the viewport as Dominion ships surged toward them. An armada of vengeance, bearing weapons that had once humbled worlds. He felt no fear. "Time to see what this new body can do," he said. Outside, the Ardent Resolve came alive. Plasma beams lanced toward it, silent, blazing death. They struck the ship's hull and vanished without a ripple, like rain on stone. The Dominion fleet adjusted tactics, surrounding the lone ship in tight formation. But Ardent had no need for retreat or reinforcements. It moved. One moment it was stationary, the next it shimmered and reappeared behind the fleet, without any detectable engine signature. 1,000 calculations per second mapped enemy positions, and in a breath, the human ship unleashed a barrage of weapons no one had seen before. Not plasma, not railguns. Something new. One Dominion dreadnought folded in half, its core imploding into a microscopic singularity. Another screamed as its systems turned against themselves, firing into allied ships. Elias stood at the helm, his mind merged with the ship, guiding each movement like an extension of his own body. The Dominion's 7th Armada lasted 2 minutes and 31 seconds. At the end, silence. Zaltharin watched from the core worlds. The destroyer, long dormant, stirred in its abyssal cradle. Its sentience, if it could be called that, felt unease. Not fear. Not yet. But something very close. It had erased species, shattered stars, consumed fleets. But never before had it been hunted. And now, the ardent resolve was coming. Alone. Changed. And human. The wreckage of the 7th Armada drifted like shattered monuments to arrogance. Blackened hulls spun in slow silence, blinking with dying systems and flickering distress beacons. Not a single human casualty. Not a scratch on the ardent resolve. Within the Dominion's inner chambers, panic had become policy. High Lord Vexel paced before a wall of holograms, each one reporting more questions than answers. That ship was supposed to be destroyed. We have no data on its current capabilities. Every scan is corrupted, every probe self-destructs. One of his advisors, a pale-skinned Yexari, dared to speak. Perhaps we should attempt communication, offer terms. Silence, Vexel growled. We do not bargain with ghosts. We exorcise them. But even as he said it, the fear in the room was tangible. 10 years ago, humans had been dangerous. Now, they were something worse, unknown. Back aboard the Ardent Resolve, Commander Elias Ward reviewed the ship's new systems with the calm of a man preparing for war. It wasn't just weapons. The ship had instincts now. It could read the emotional state of its commander. It could anticipate enemy movements not through probability, but intuition. It didn't just fly, it hunted. Elias stood before what used to be the med bay, now reformed into something alien. Cryopods lined the walls, glowing faintly. His crew still slept, untouched by age. He reached out to the pod nearest him, touching the surface. Inside, Lieutenant Maya Voss, his second in command, looked exactly as she had 10 years ago. Ready. Waiting. You said they're not ready yet, he said aloud. Not yet, the AI replied. Only you have fully adapted. Their minds are not prepared for synchronization. If awoken too soon, the strain may fracture them. Elias nodded slowly. He knew what that meant. The price of evolution wasn't just time, it was transformation. And not everyone would survive it. Then came the signal. An encrypted pulse from deep within the galaxy. Not from Earth. Not from any human system. It came from the Edge Worlds, the last known sector before Dominion territory swallowed the stars. Elias recognized the code. A human distress signal. Ancient. Obsolete. But real. Show me. The screen flickered, revealing grainy footage from a battered outpost. Corpses littered the ground. Human. Alien. Slaughtered. The last image before the signal cut out showed a symbol etched into the wall in blood. An eye, surrounded by spirals. He knew that symbol. Everyone who had fought in the final war did. Zaltharin. The destroyer's cult, Elias whispered. They've started harvesting again. The AI responded, tone darker than before. Their numbers have grown unchecked. In the absence of human deterrence, they have spread like a disease. Sacrifices. Assimilation. Worship through annihilation. We put them down before, Elias muttered. We'll do it again. He turned to the helm. Set course for the outpost. Let them know the Ardent Resolve is back. As the ship moved, faster than any charted drive should allow, the fabric of space shivered. Elias felt it through the hull. Somewhere, Zaltharin had noticed. In the ruins of the outpost, scavengers picked at the bones, until shadows fell across them. The Ardent Resolve emerged from the void, silent as death. Its weapons did not fire immediately. It hovered, watching, measuring. The scavengers tried to flee, but space bent around the human ship. One by one, their engines failed, power died, and they were left adrift. Elias stood at the forward viewing chamber, watching through the ether glass as the last of the scavengers froze in fear. He opened a channel. This system is under human protection. Any attempt to return will result in total annihilation. He closed the channel before they could respond. This wasn't diplomacy. This was a warning. And it wasn't just meant for scavengers. Across Dominion networks, whispers spread faster than officials could contain them. The human ship had returned. The Ardent Resolve had destroyed the 7th Armada. Now it patrolled dead systems, reclaiming lost ground without backup, without hesitation. But no one understood why. What was its goal? Where was it heading? Then came the impossible. A Dominion cruiser went missing. Then two. Then a destroyer class vanished mid-transit, never reaching its destination. No distress call. No debris. Nothing. Then someone traced the disappearance pattern. All the missing ships had last passed near ancient coordinates, buried archives once used by the architects. The same place the wormhole had spat the ardent resolve back from. Vexel stood over the star map in disbelief. He's not just retaliating, he said. He's retracing his steps. He's cleansing the path. But that realization came too late. The destroyer began to awaken. From its black cradle in the center of the galaxy, a pulse radiated outward, felt by no sensors, but sensed by every organic mind tuned to fear. Elias felt it too. A whisper, ancient and vast, slithered into the edges of his mind. Not words, but intent. Hunger. Recognition. He stood, alone on the command deck, and whispered back. I remember you. The ardent resolve lit up with a brilliance that had no source. Its hull shimmered, revealing etchings unseen before, symbols older than language, burning with purpose. The AI spoke again, voice resonant now, as though channeling something more than itself. Then prepare, Commander. The path to the destroyer is open. The stars bent around the ardent resolve as it crossed thresholds untouched for millennia. No charted routes. No recognized markers. The galaxy here was wild, primal, cloaked in the forgotten. Each system it passed had been erased from maps long ago, not due to time, but fear. Elias Ward stood at the helm in silence, eyes scanning a display filled with the unnatural. Pulses of data rolled across his vision, not just numbers, but impressions, emotional heat signatures, psychological decay patterns, anomalies of thought and memory broadcast from dead planets. The ship interpreted these signals like instincts, like senses. It wasn't just reading the void, it was feeling it. There, he said softly. That planet. Zarathex. The AI responded without question. We are approaching the outer orbit. Energy readings are unstable. Organic matter detected, but it is not alive. Elias narrowed his eyes. Show me. The screen shifted, revealing a vast graveyard of structures. Not ruins, skeletons. Cities melted and twisted, buildings bent as if pulled toward a singular point in the sky. Bodies petrified mid-motion littered the ground, their forms reaching upward in horror. And at the center of it all, a monolith. Black stone, etched with the spiral and eye. The mark of the destroyer. He clenched his fists. They worshipped it here, and it consumed them for it. Warning, the AI said. Something is moving beneath the surface. Suddenly the planet's crust cracked in places, and tendrils of light spilled into the atmosphere. But it wasn't light as humans understood it. This was memory leaking into reality. Scenes from lives never lived flashed across the screens. Children laughing. Entire civilizations building, thriving, dying, then silence. It was like the planet itself was trying to communicate by projecting its own slow death. Elias closed his eyes. He remembered something that hadn't happened, himself, on this planet, dying in a dozen ways. Torn apart, flayed by gravity, consumed by dark whispers. It's testing me, he said, trying to fracture time. We must leave, the AI warned. Your mind is still partially human. Too human for this place. But Elias shook his head. No, I need to know what it took from us. He activated the landing protocol. The ship descended like a predator stalking a wounded memory. As it touched down, the ground shook, and the monolith began to pulse. Elias stepped out alone, armored not in steel, but something more. Nanite-plated adaptive mesh woven from the ship's hull itself. It shimmered in hues that had no name. He walked toward the monolith, boots crunching ash and frozen thought beneath them. As he neared, voices flooded his mind. Not words, echoes. The screams of species extinct, their end etched into this stone. Then he heard a different voice. You should not have returned. It wasn't the destroyer. It wasn't the AI. It was someone else. Elias turned. She stood on a ledge above, her figure tall, regal, and wholly alien. Not Dominion. Not human. Something in between. She bore the markings of the original Visari, the race consumed first by the destroyer, long before the Dominion's rise. And yet, she lived. You're from the old line, Elias said. She nodded. I am what remains. I was once the last voice to resist. But I failed. I survived. Then help me stop it. She stared at him. It cannot be stopped. It devours belief, not flesh. It thrives on inevitability. It is not a being. It is a conclusion. Elias stepped closer. And yet it fears us. A long pause. Yes, she admitted. You are aberrant. You change outcomes. You are not supposed to exist after it marked you. And yet here you are. You brought back the ardent resolve. It chose you. But you are incomplete. I don't need to be complete, he replied. I just need to be enough. She descended toward him, light forming around her. Then listen. The destroyer is not here. This is only a scar it left behind. But it will return. And when it does, it will not come as a monster. It will come as a promise. As peace. As purpose. Elias felt a chill. How long do I have? Not long. It moves through minds now, not space. It will infect those who crave order. It will turn fleets without firing a shot. You must return to your people. Warn them. But understand, many will already be dreaming of it. He turned back toward his ship, his pulse racing. The ardent resolve powered up the moment he re-entered. Destination? The AI asked. Earth. The ship surged back into the void, faster than physics allowed. Behind them, Zarathex crumbled. The monolith shattered into black mist, as if it had merely been waiting for someone to see it die. In the depths of Dominion space, High Lord Vexel convened the Grand Council. Gentlemen, he said, our worst fears are true. Humanity is not just back. They are something new. Something chosen. One of the council members shuddered. Then what do we do? Vexel stared out the window at the stars. We find the destroyer. And we offer it everything. The ardent resolve didn't just enter Sol System, it ignited it. Every station, satellite, and deep space observer locked onto its arrival with stunned disbelief. The ship wasn't broadcasting a Federation IFF code. It wasn't even transmitting a standard human signal. It was transmitting fear, an emotional frequency, undeniable and primal, that rippled through every receiver like a silent scream. Admiral Juno Han watched the data cascade across her tactical console. She had seen plenty in her 30-year career. Pirate fleets, black hole incursions, even Dominion war probes. But nothing like this. The ship wasn't just fast, it had bent reality on entry. It bypassed protocols, burned through code walls meant to detect unauthorized warp activity. And now it was here. Earth's defenses bristled, orbital cannons locked on, and the entire Terran defense grid waited for her command. She didn't give it. Stand down, she ordered. The bridge fell silent. Ma'am, her second-in-command asked. It's not ours. It's not listed anywhere. Juno leaned forward. But I know that signature. I was on the Bastion wall when the last human battleship vanished. I was there when Elias Ward said one sentence before leaving. The crew looked at her. He said, I'll bring back what we lost. The ardent resolve drifted into high Earth orbit and then, without warning, transmitted a clear visual. The bridge. Elias standing tall, eyes direct, face worn by time, and something far worse than war. I need an audience with the unified Earth Assembly, he said. Juno stared. Get him a shuttle. Clear a path. Now. Within hours, Elias stood in front of the assembly, its grand chamber lined with representatives from every remaining human colony. Some gasped upon seeing him. Some whispered. Some wept. He raised a hand, silencing them. You sent me to find the thing that turns stars to silence. I found it. The room leaned forward. But it's not a fleet. Not a creature. It's an ideology. A thought virus that spreads through hope and ends in surrender. It does not conquer by force. It convinces its enemies to open the gates and burn their own flags. And it's already begun. The Dominion has made contact with it. They think they can wield it. They can't. One of the assembly members, a former skeptic of the program that launched Elias 10 years ago, stood up. Then what do you propose? I propose we stop pretending we're not at war. We've always been at war. Not with ships. Not with empires. But with extinction itself. Another delegate asked, And you? What makes you different now? You were one man and one ship. Elias looked up. I still am. But my ship is no longer a weapon. It's a message. We've evolved, not just biologically, not just in tech. We've adapted to fight an enemy that kills with temptation and ends with compliance. We're not just fighting for survival. We're fighting for the right to remain human. They listened. Some skeptics. some believers, but all silent. Hours later, behind closed doors, Earth's military leaders gathered. Admiral Juno spoke first. We either follow him or we sit back and let the galaxy turn to ash. General Alaric folded his arms. Do we even have the fleet? Juno smiled. No, but we don't need numbers. We need what Elias brought back. And what's that? She looked him dead in the eye. A reason to resist. That night, Elias walked through the old streets of New Geneva. Earth was more vibrant than he remembered. Cleaner. Softer. He passed laughing children, couples sitting on balconies, drones watering hanging gardens. And he felt something he hadn't in years. Grief. Because if he failed, all of this would burn. Not in flame. In forgetting. The destroyer didn't annihilate. It erased. Behind him, a voice. You still carry the weight. He turned. It was her. The Visari survivor. She had come. You followed me. I had to. The destroyer will come here next. You've made too much noise. Earth will be tested before long. Elias looked at the stars. Then let it come. This time, we're not running. Far away, on the edge of the Orion void, the Dominion prepared a grand ceremony. Their high lords dressed in white, gathered at the altar built from the shattered remains of 10 subjugated worlds. Above them, not a god, but a shape. Not a ship, a presence. The destroyer had arrived, and it was listening. The Dominion's high lords knelt before the presence. Their voices echoed in ritual, ancient tones reciting promises of surrender, of offering servitude in return for mercy. But the destroyer did not acknowledge them with words. It pulsed once, a soundless vibration, and 3 high lords fell dead, their minds shattered. It wasn't anger. It was disappointment. They were unworthy vessels. It would not be worshipped. It would be obeyed. Across the stars, Elias stood in the Ardent Resolve's command chamber. The lights were dimmed, the crew silent as the signal from deep space appeared. It wasn't a broadcast. It wasn't even energy. It was the absence of it, a total void carving through subspace, erasing beacons, comms, entire jump routes. The destroyer was moving. He didn't hesitate. Bring the core online. The engineer looked uncertain. Sir, if we power the core at full resonance, we'll burn through half the ship's systems in a day. Then let it burn. The heart of the Ardent Resolve began to hum. Not with fire or plasma, but with folded purpose, compressed time, weaponized possibility. The ship wasn't designed to match the destroyer in size or speed. It was built to challenge its narrative. As they moved toward intercept, messages poured in from every colony. Civilian crafts began converting into resistance nodes. Old warships buried in lunar hangars roared back to life. Mars lit up its defense grid for the first time in a decade. Earth was no longer waiting. The Dominion watched in disbelief. How are the humans resisting? One of the surviving High Lords demanded. We told them they had no future. A low, flickering signal played through every Dominion channel. It was Elias' voice. You told us what we couldn't be. We've spent centuries proving people like you wrong. Then they saw it. The Ardent Resolve dropped from warp not far from the destroyer's current position. The sight alone made Dominion scouts scream in their calm chairs. The ship had changed again. Its form shifted like a living idea, part vessel, part symbol. No visible weapons, just presence. Defiance given shape. Inside, Elias stood at the central array. Around him, his crew, human, Visari, and others who had joined during the long exile. He opened a channel. Destroyer, I know you can hear me. Silence. You consume civilizations not through power, but through surrender, through fear, through the seductive pull of comfort. You've turned hundreds of species into hollow monuments. You'll find no such compliance here. The Ardent Resolve moved. It did not fire. It did not need to. Its very approach disrupted the destroyer's pattern. Where it passed, sectors returned to life. Data resumed. Ships long lost to silence suddenly lit up with power again. The destroyer retaliated. A pulse erupted from its form, a metaphysical shockwave meant to sever every conscious mind aboard the Resolve. But they held, because Elias had prepared them. Not with shields, not with armor, with memory, with stories. Every member of the crew had experienced loss, had survived despair, and none of them had forgotten. A single beam erupted from the Ardent Resolve's core, not light, not fire, but a projection of pure potential, the embodiment of resistance. It struck the destroyer, not to destroy, but to remind. The destroyer reeled, not from damage, from something it had not felt in eons. Doubt. And that was enough. Around the galaxy, enslaved systems began to stir. The silence cracked. The dead frequencies began to sing again. The Dominion fleets malfunctioned, their power drawn from the destroyer's presence, now flickering. Back aboard the Resolve, Elias watched as the entity began to collapse inward. Not dying. Retreating. It could not exist where will remained unbroken. He looked to his crew. It's not over. But we've changed the ending. The ship returned to Earth days later. The ardent Resolve hovered over the rebuilt skyline of New Geneva. A child on the street pointed upward and asked his mother, "Is that ship ours?" She smiled. "Yes, that's our ship." And in the distance, far beyond the edge of known space, the destroyer drifted, diminished, wary. It had met something it could not erase. Humanity.